If we split it into sort of price and then product, pre-pandemic, I didn't see prices moving that much in the intermediary space, but post-pandemic, we've seen a big sort of cost plus inflation, where costs clearly have risen, which means claims costs have risen, which means I think that premiums are going to sort of rise more moving forward, which probably heralds the need for proper advice, so to look at pricing. If we look at products, I think products, again, not huge changes, but the compartmentalisation of products I think has been greater because of big data, being able to sort of nail products down to 2, 3, 4 products based on postcode areas, and that leads on to how processes have changed. And I think if anything's changed sort of dramatically over the past 10 years, it's been the process in actually writing a piece of GI because of big data, because of technology. Technology's helped tremendously in doing that. So for an advisor now to sit down and actually advise on a product that he really feels is fit for the customer, it's a lot easier doing that, and it takes a heck of a lot less time than it did, and therefore driving efficiency into the business.
Yeah, I think just to pick up on that, I think it's on us as technology businesses to consistently evolve, and I think because there's good competition in our market between providers, we have had to drastically improve the technology. You get the same feedback from advisors, don't you, about what's stopping them from writing as much GI as they might like, what firms need, what suits their different types of processes. And back to what you said there, Mike, we have to try and find ways to fit the perfect advisor process and have flexibility for all the different types of advisors that have their own way of writing business. So I think we've done that, and yeah, I mean a lot of change.
I think just going back to products, the other thing we've seen obviously is the rise of the aggregators, and where products have been designed more around price to fit the aggregator model, and therefore stripping out a lot of sort of in some instances really key areas to make the price cheaper, to make certain products look better on aggregator sides. And I think that's probably been a big change in the last 10 years as well.
We have always, as a business at Source, tried to offer a versatile sort of proposition that would suit a plethora of different types of advisors. As I've sort of alluded in the previous answer, there's lots of different types of firms that have different ways of approaching general insurance. You've got protection specialists, you've got mortgage brokers that add it onto their process, IFAs, all these different types. So one of the reasons that we're quite well aligned with Paradigm is, you've got a very holistic proposition from a protection perspective. A lot of clubs and networks out there don't shine as much of a light on things like general insurance and technology and making sure that there is a lot of options for advisors. So no matter how you want to write it, you have the option. We definitely reflect the same sort of way of working here, and therefore, Paradigm member firms, if you're looking to start writing general insurance, if you're already doing GI but you need to change your process, you guys offer a lot of options, don't you? And I think that's why why it fits well since we started working together.
Yeah. I mean, the Paradigm model has always been one of sort of looking at it as a type of supermarket, and where we offer the opportunity for advisors to come in and look at everything on every shelf we've got. And the GI shelf, we want referral models, we want products where advisors can do it themselves, we want quality, we want quirky, pretty much every GI product that's out there, we want our advisors to have access to, and that sort of works well with Source. Quality advisors will always want to make sure that the product they offer to their client is the right one for the client. Actually having that competence is one thing, but demonstrating it is another. And a lot of our firms were asking us how they can possibly demonstrate competence of somebody in GI world. And in investment world, it's sort of a lot easier because they have level 4. In mortgage world, they have CMAP. Even in protection world, they have RO5, and you can sort of say, that's a level of competence that advisor has hit. In GI world, we didn't see a lot out there other than CPD. So when we started to talk to the source, it was on the back of a lot of our firms wanting something a bit stronger for the controlling function directors who are responsible to sign people off to enable us to do it. So we came to you guys and asked for help and support in doing that, and of course that's then evolved into the testing model that we now have, aligned to our CPD Academy and to a certain extent to your learning lab, which sort of at least gives in the round the ability for advisors to go and test themselves to a level where they feel competent to advise, and I think that's been pretty important for us. And we've seen the take up, we've seen more and more people using the test zone, certainly more and more people using the academy in relation to general insurance.
The key for us, and we talk about barriers to advice to grow in the sort of GI market across the advisor space, and really it might not be the most commonly brought up barrier that advisors would say, I just need to learn the products, or I'm not really completely au fait with how to be a general insurance advisor. When do I introduce it into the conversation with the client? Naturally, if you're sitting in a room of advisors, that's probably not going to be the first thing they say. It's just like, they might say time, or they might say technology. So we have to make sure we help with those things. But we've recently revamped the Learning Lab, and we'll continually add more and more content to it. That is an area that we believe is the sort of market leader in making sure that advisors have the access to the education around products. As I say, it's not just products, it's not just our systems, there's regulation in there, there's all sorts of stuff that you can sort of dig your teeth into, bite-sized chunks, you can do it on a longer form. And if you're a business that needs something a bit more bespoke, you've got a number of different advisors that you're perhaps trying to learn general insurance from scratch, we can work with businesses on a one-to-one basis. So that's something that we're going to be passionate about, and keep an eye on the Learning Lab, because it's going to keep going in the right direction. I think the way that Paradigm work, and the way that you've discussed already today, is making available as much of the offerings that are available in the market to advisors, and that is something that we're passionate about. We have a huge cohort of directly authorised advisors that work with us, obviously an awful lot under the Paradigm umbrella. Those sorts of advisors need access to an independent sort of group of products and technology and services, and that's why we're aligned so well when it comes down to Mike and I sitting down and planning how we can support advisors within Paradigm. It's an easy one, isn't it? Because we're going to offer a lot of different options, and under the Paradigm group, you've got a lot of different types of advisors. We have a lot of different options that suit them in different ways. It's also quite key for us to have almost that consultational approach. We've already talked about Learning Lab and our providing of the test area for Paradigm's sort of CPD area. That's because we talk about what's required and what feedback you're getting from advisors, right? And we'll continue to do that. If there's something that your referral model looks like this, but we could do with something that works in this way. If it's integration, if it's API, depending on what sort of business, we can even offer white label options nowadays, and that just speaks to how we want to be able to provide as many options as possible for firms like yours.
I think that what we're seeing in the early days is that people are focusing more on general insurance than they ever were. Not necessarily looking at advising themselves, but looking to make sure that their clients are properly dealt with under the rules of consumer duty. And I guess we can look at consumer duty and take it down into constituent parts, price and value, or products and services. But consumer duty is about driving a better culture within a business and effectively trying to get things right for customers all of the time.
Yeah.
And in doing that, I think where people start to look at the general insurance product range, again, like I said earlier, most advisors would want to do that most of the time, but I think they are being coaxed down that way a bit more by the regulator, making sure that clients are aware of the sorts of products that are available for them when they're talking about mortgages, or whether they're talking about consents or general conversations over making sure that the clients are properly covered. And I think that's probably the biggest area of support and growth we can give them. We've already seen that the regulator is getting his teeth a little bit into the general insurance world. We've seen with price walking and press around where that hasn't worked as it should have done. The regulator's getting his teeth into it. We've seen in terms of some commercial properties where pricing is almost too high based on the commission amounts. And so the regulator's got general insurance on its radar. And therefore I think it's incumbent on advisors to recognise that. And if they don't want to advise on products as part of their own individual consumer duty plans, which are all there ready to be tested by the regulator, then in theory they should be saying, look, if I'm not advising on it, I've got to refer it. And at the same time explain to my client what the risks are of not getting it right. So I think referral models will be a big part of where things go, and I also think that a lot of advisors will potentially start to do what they've said for a long time in bring people into their own businesses to look after the GI bit. And because of the processes that we talked about earlier, it's not as a laborious process as it used to be, and therefore there are efficiencies which can drive volume and drive profitability for businesses. And I think we shouldn't forget that profit isn't a dirty word in this industry, and as long as you're doing things right for the client and it's efficient, then I think GI can be a really profitable part of people's business.
Yeah, I mean, I think this year we've already started to see some behaviours eventually change after consumer duty coming in last year. Naturally, a lot of businesses that we work with, small and large businesses, had other priorities ahead of general insurance. Not what we want to hear here at Source, but it's just the way it is. They had to get some of the other ducks in the line before they got to these ones. But we're starting to see now that, as we've said, over the last 10 years, maybe even longer, our technologies as providers in the industry have improved. The products are more suited to clients. There's access to better information. It's easy to get educated. There's lots of different options in terms of systems and processes to follow. Then you've got the pressure from the regulator to say, look, let's do this right by the client. So as you're saying, there's not really been a better time than sort of 2024 to say, well, actually, why not now? There's pressure from every angle. Yes, clients are facing difficult costs in their lives, as everyone is, but it's on the advisor to make sure that they've got the right cover in place, because it's only going to cost more if they don't have it. So I think we can support Paradigm in that and make sure that there are options, and make sure we talk to your member firms and the rest of the industry about how it's so easy to adopt a new process. And if it is referral, Source goes wait in there, it's easy to use, it's not difficult to adopt, and as I say, you can start making an income as well as making sure your client gets the right outcome.
Yeah, I think in any consumer duty plan, really, there shouldn't be any gaps in it.
Yeah.
So either I'm doing it myself, or I've got somebody in my firm that I'm going to sort of hand it off to, or I'm going to hand it to a third party. Source it somewhere, as I say. So yeah, and I think there shouldn't be any holes in any plans around that. So as you were saying, it's always been a good time to do it, but I think the sort of, if you're looking at the carrot and stick approach, that the carrot's been there for a while now because it is profitable, but the stick is there with the regulator saying, we really want you to get this right.